Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mic Top Podcast here at Pima International School. I'm your host, Alina Giri, for today's episode. And we have someone very special guest with us here today from being a rapporteur for UN Women, translating investigative journalism, and working a lot of behind the scenes for film production. We have Sandesh Ghimire.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
How are you feeling right now to be here?
It's been good. It's been a good, I just started this job at Premier International, and it's been such a joy to work with you all.
Thank you. So, when I was looking at Ajuko profile, and I came across so many interesting things Ajuले चाहिँ involved हुनुभएको रहेछ, such like from journalism to like academics to translation to working in films. How would you like अहिले पछाडि हेर्दाखेरि आफ्नो journeyमा चाहिँ कस्तो, how would you describe the journey चाहिँ?
I think all of that like kind of connects. मलाई चाहिँ त्यो seamlessly नै connect हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ मेरो अहिलेसम्मको career choicesहरू. I started, I taught for a year in the US and then I was back. अनि मलाई सानो हुँदैदेखि नै म धेरै नै पत्र पत्रिका पढेर हुर्केको. कोसेली शनिबारको कान्तिपुरको कोसेली आउँथ्यो, शुक्रबार कोपिला आउँथ्यो र त्यो सँगसँगै अरू थुप्रै पत्र पत्रिका चाहिँ म I was an obsessive media consumer, and I was also watching news a lot. So I know our school's academic director was a newsreader at Kantipur Television back in 2010. And I just knew this because I was, so obsessed with all things media. So I came back. I started out as a reporter for the Kathmandu Post, and then I transitioned into becoming a freelance reporter writer, and then I did some long form essays, and then I got into grad school, and in grad school I took some film classes, and that was and for me, as somebody who has been creatively inclined, the transition from writing to film and from writing to theater feels very seamless and natural.
So like हजुरले अघि मेन्सन गर्नुभएको थियो कोसेली कोपिला भनेर, because I assume like time कस्तो चेन्ज भइसक्यो अहिले हाम्रो like we youngster do not even bother भन्दा पनि त एक्सेस नै भएन न्युज पेपरको. इट्स सो फनी when you mention the कोपिला एन्ड कोसेली, अहिले त आउँदैन जस्तो लाग्यो.
सायद आउँछ कोसेली, अब त्यो पेपर
गेम जस्तो there was a game जस्तो
गेमहरू पनि हुन्थ्यो, तर कोपिला चाहिँ मोर चिल्ड्रेन फोकस सप्लिमेन्ट थियो कान्तिपुर डेलीको. अनि कोसेली चाहिँ वाज मोर रिफ्लेक्टिभ राइटिङ्स, रिभ्युज, फिल्म, थिएटर, बुक रिभ्युजहरू खालको त्यस्तो. अनि ट्राभलगहरू धेरै आउँथ्यो होइन. म जुन बेलामा त्यो पढ्न थाल्थेँ, कोपिलामा चाहिँ सधैँ मेरो उमेरको मान्छेहरूले भनौँ, म सानो हुँदाखेरि लाइक 7, 8, 9, 10 वर्षको उमेर हुँदाखेरि त्यो उमेरका मान्छेहरूको चाहिँ लेखहरू आउँथ्यो होइन. सो मैले चाहिँ त्यसरी लेखेर पनि पठाउन कोसिस पनि गरेको थिएँ, तर मैले त्यतिखेर चाहिँ प्राइमेरली इङ्ग्लिसमै लेख्थेँ. सो आई रिमेम्बर contributing pieces to the Himalayan Times and Kathmandu Post, and those were like student sections, within the paper, and the circulation was much high. Obviously, I think the circulation has really dipped down, and just like the change the transformation into digital media. You can directly access it to the websites, right? Those things exist, but I think it does not have the same kind of potency. And the other thing is, when I was a young boy, watching a film meant you're watching at 2 p.m. on Saturday. So like all the family would sit around the television set. You'd wait for this movie, right? And that was, or you went to the theater, right? Which was not very common. So our modes of like entertainment and engagement were fewer. So you anticipated, you just don't know what to engage with. And even if you engage with anything, you kind of get distracted pretty quickly, right? And I'm sure that has been your experience. It has also been mine lately.
Yeah, so I hear that हजुर like you have very passion for storytelling, visual telling. So त्यो हजुरले मेन्सन गर्नुभयो आज बच्चादेखि नै पत्र पत्रिका पढ्ने. सो हजुरलाई पहिलेदेखि थाहा थियो कि वाउ म चाहिँ फ्युचरमा गएर I'll be telling like a फिल्ममा काम गर्छु or I'll be journalist. Was that all like plan all along कि
त्यस्तो त केही पनि थिएन. मलाई आई रिमेम्बर क्लास 8मा हुँदाखेरि पाइलट साह्रै बन्न मन थियो. अनि अनि आँखा जचाउन गएको थिएँ अनि डक्टरले तेरो 20/20 भिजन छैन, त पाइलट हुन सक्दैनस् भनेको याद छ होइन. अनि मलाई म चाहिँ त्यसपछि घन्टौँसम्म रोएको पनि याद छ. अनि त्यसपछि केही समय आई थिङ्क आई वाज इन लाइक मेबी 8th or 9th grade. I was obsessed with National Geographic programming. You're going into the wild and then you're interacting with the wildlife. There's this Australian guy, I forget his name now, but he was like this very big natural conservationist. He worked with alligators a lot. So I wanted to be like him for a while.
त्यो डिस्कभरी च्यानल
Yeah. Oh, so अहिले पनि the man versus wild हरू छ नि होइन त्यस्तो प्रोग्रामिङ त्यस्तै खालको तर अर्लियर भर्जन्स अफ देम भनौँ न अर्लियर इटरेसन्स अर अर्लियर ड्राफ्ट्स अफ दिज काइन्ड अफ प्रोग्रामिङ आई वाज प्रिटी obsessed with and I wanted to be like him for a while. And then and I went to in high school I went to college not knowing what I really wanted to pursue in life. And then the colleges I applied to, I had like a full scholarship in Japan to study like international relations or something, and I had like a few different colleges in the US lined up. And thinking back on it, I think had I gone to the school in Japan, I think my career would have been slightly different. Had it been a different college in the US, I think my career path would have been very different. But incidentally, where I landed was such a big focus on reading books, so it like kind of provided the opportunity for me to really obsess over literature and philosophy, and that became the start. But even then, I was not somebody who was like a brilliant student. My teachers didn't think, oh, I wrote so beautiful papers, like in fact, I almost failed my classes because I was turning in poorly written papers. So for me, writing has just been in a way an obsession. And it's hard to describe, like when you have a creative passion, you just keep doing it. And I was never good to start with, but because I've done it so many times, I've become better and better. I don't know if you've heard about the 10,000 hour rule, which says that like if you want to get good at something, you do it for 10,000, you practice for 10,000 hours, and then you become an expert at it, right? So that's like very similar to my journey.
Okay, अनि so like हजुरले you worked so many projects अहिलेसम्म अनि म हजुरको प्रोफाइल हेर्दा पनि I was like wow you're so interesting मान्छे भनेर. And you even worked as like freelance editor, writer पनि. अनि freelanceमा चाहिँ you are like your own creator नै भनौँ न अब because you are like creating on your own अनि it's everything on your. So like the freelance journey चाहिँ हजुर कस्तो भयो like अहिले पछाडि like was it?
It's been really fun. I think my freelance started during the COVID years in a way because the world was shut down, and the possibility of going and working at an office space was limited. And I was a writer, which meant like I had a skill that I could like offer to different organizations. In terms of when I'm doing freelance writing, I am not as much as creating on my own, but creating or writing something based on the directions that I've been given, right? So an organization, let's say, so something that I've done recently, as in like before a year ago, was I wrote a book, a host wrote a book for an organization. So the organization needed a book written, and the people who wanted to write the book didn't have the time and the leisure to like sit down and write the book. So we would have like several conversations about the ideas that they wanted to kind of like incorporate into the book. I did some research. I went to Khotang, I went to Bardia, and then I drafted the book and I gave it to them, and then then they gave me feedback and I wrote another draft. And so that way it went for a number of times. So when you're being a freelance writer, you kind of have to learn how to write in command, which is writing is really hard, as you can tell, right? And you can't always wait for inspiration. You just have to sit down and do the work. And sometimes it's really hard. Like yesterday, I really did not want to go to my yoga class. I even called my wife saying, hey, can I avoid going to the yoga class? And I wanted her permission to hey, it's okay to let go. But she didn't pick up her phone. And I didn't want to go home early. So I was like, okay, let's just go. And then the yoga class afterwards, it was like I was so happy that I did it, you know. So with writing too, and oftentimes even with your own academic journey, what's going to happen is that if you don't, there will be some days when you won't be motivated, but if you are disciplined enough to put in the work, there the reward will come later for you, you know.
So like what I want to ask was like it's freelance भएर the struggles हुन्छ नि, if you could like highlight those.
As a freelancer, yeah, so as a freelancer you're kind of working on project to project basis, right? So let's say as a freelance writer, I wrote the book and then my contract is over, or I did the rapporteuring for the UN, and that was like a short term, like 3-4 days assignment, and I completed that. And so now I'm in the market again, you know. So I'm constantly meeting people, I'm pitching myself, I'm pitching my skills, I'm messaging people saying like, hey, I have these skills, do you have any work? So it does not have to necessarily be a struggle, but I think some people find it challenging to constantly look for new jobs, because as a freelancer you're not like, here I'm as a teacher, my work is to come every day and teach you guys to the best of my abilities and give you good feedback on your writing, right? And then to help you grow as readers and writers and students of literature, and my employment contract is on a monthly basis, right? It's a salary basis. But with freelance, it is going to be it's going to be based on deliverables. So I deliver a draft and then I get paid. I deliver another draft and then I get paid. So what happens is that you're like constantly on the market, and you constantly there's a pressure to produce all the time, which if you're someone like me who also have creative aspirations, so you're writing for work and then you're writing for yourself, and that can get overwhelming.
हजुरले अघि मेन्सन गर्ने मोटिभेसनको कुरा पनि, then you mentioned about marketको पनि, because market is like competitive and more selective, because world is more like it's very not that easy भनौँ. अनि like how would you like what's your motivation जस्तो लाग्छ होला, because you worked in film production, it's not that easy. It requires a lot of commitment, dedication, and since the market is very selective pani, so how did you add that going on iti lamu bersama, because you talked about motivation pani, so was it always motivation or you had more consistency and discipline?
I think it's a mix of both. I would say most of the jobs that I've had has not been based on like, hey, there's a call for there's like a job vacancy announcement and I applied, you know. It has never been that. Like when I went, I remember my job in Kathmandu Post, I just walked into Central Business Park in Thapatali. I said I wanted to meet the editor, and I went, and they're like, what are you here for? I said, I just want to talk. And then so I went up there, I met the editor and I said like, hey, can you give me a job? You know? So, and now when I think about it, it's kind of like, in a way, like maybe stupid. I was really young. I think I was like 22 or 23 at the time. But it was like so courageous, you know. And even this job, right? So I was talking, I hadn't spoken to Tiku sir. We had worked together in Kathmandu Post for a while, and I called him, and I'd helped a student here with her college application, and I was looking for a job. I was getting tired of freelancing and I wanted to get back into teaching, but I'd already done 2 years of teaching before in the US. So I wanted to see if I can do this more of a full-time. So I called Tiku sir and I said, hey, is the school hiring? Do you think if I apply, they would consider me? I didn't know that there was a need for an English teacher. I didn't know, because there was never a vacancy announced anywhere, right? So I went for it. And that's also the same case with the film production. I was in the US. I had decided to return back to Nepal, and I knew that this director who I really liked and who I had been in communication with on and off was about to shoot his film. So I messaged him every week saying, hey, give me work.
And you finally got the work.
And then I finally got the work. So I landed in Nepal. At 10 o'clock, I put my suitcases at home. At 12 o'clock, I was at the film office. So on the very same day that I landed, I started working on the film. And I started out work as an art assistant. And then I eventually became an assistant director on set, and then I was one of the assistant editors. I helped with the translation for the dialogues, and then I became the marketing coordinator during its Nepal release. So for me, my experience has been to find a way to get inside and prove your abilities, and put in the hard work and the dedication, and then you shine, and then your employers see that, and then you have the skills, so you get valued. It's often hard for, I think, when you're thinking from an organizational perspective, all they see is a CV. They don't see the human being. They don't see the flesh and the bones, right? And I think it's hard for them to say, like, hey, whether this person would like really succeed or not. And I think every organization has gone through this phase where they think this person will be so great, but they aren't. Whereas, and then there's another person who they think are going to be okay, but then they end up doing so well, right? So to answer your question about the difficulty is yes, the world is difficult, but the world is what it is, right? We can't, we have to fight to change that, but we can't do it all the time. We also have to adjust to the realities that the world has presented us with. And what we can do, we can't have control over anything, but we can have control over our hard work and our dedication, and motivation is something that comes and goes.
Yeah, agree. Yeah. Okay, so what's your favorite medium to tell a story? Because story matter, there's so many forms. Article bio, your podcast is also one form of to tell a story. Yeah. So what's your go-to form of to tell a story?
When I was a journalist, and I guess I should say I'm still a journalist in some way, but when I was a full-time journalist, I was not so much drawn into breaking news. Like, I did do breaking news, but I wanted to tell human stories, like, that had some news that was like pegged to daily news in some way, but I wanted to tell a larger story. And so I realized very soon that the daily news journalism was not for me. It was not for me to like go out and write, hey, this happened, this event happened, this politician said something, or that executive said this, this bank had this kind of like share fluctuations. I realized that was not what I got a kick out of, So I wanted to tell a larger story. So I ended up doing more of a creative nonfiction, where I went to this landfill site to Sisto landfill site. I just like commuted there for a month every day. And then I started writing about that. And then that evolved into a essay where it tells my own story, my family's story, but also of the landfill workers. And since 2020, I've been working on a novel. I recently completed co-writing a play, which is an interpretation of a Chilean play called Death and the Maiden. So I would say like I am exploring a lot of different mediums, but for me, writing is the primary medium. And when I worked in the film production, I thought I was going to go and become a film director. And I realized that, at least for now, I'm happy writing, because I also realized that there's so much opportunities in telling a better story, because I think as an industry, Nepali film industry, we don't have good writers. So that's a space where I could exist. And being a film director also meant that I had to learn a whole set of skills that I didn't have, which would mean like it would take more time. So there's more opportunity cost involved, right? And the older you get, there is like more opportunity cost involved, because you have responsibilities you have financial responsibilities, you have responsibilities towards your family, and that gets in the way. So for me, like writing, I think I love novels. I'm writing one. I'm hopeful that I'll finish it soon. I've been working on it for 5 years. I'm also kind of tired about
publishing it, right?
Hopefully. I'm working on the revisions, and it's just taking forever.
You mentioned about film in Nepal industry. So I think like Nepal, what I think personally is that a lot of film are still underappreciated, because
उदाहरण छ कुनै examples?
Like there are a lot of talented filmmakers Nepal industry ma pani, but जति पाउनु पनि recognition हुन्छ नि अलि पाइरा छ जस्तो लाग्छ हैन. So अनि like especially in like competitive market Hollywood or Bollywood भयो, but then recently I feel like यो अझै डेभलप हुँदै गइरहेको छ बिकज रिसेन्टली नेपाल र लाइक द इन्डियन सिनेमा र नेपाल सिनेमा दे कोलाबरेट अन अ मुभी रसो दीर्घ समथिङ इफ आइम नट करेक्ट या सो उनीहरूले त्यसमा गऱ्यो एन्ड देन लट अफ पिपल लाइक लट अफ मुभिज पनि ग्लोबल प्लेटफर्ममा लाइक युके अमेरिकामा चाहिँ प्रिमियर भइ नै रहेछ इफ according to my knowledge होइन सो अहिले चाहिँ what do you think future of like film production and storytelling चाहिँ हुन्छ जस्तो लाग्छ because I feel like it's more about a skill that AI ले चाहिँ replace गर्न सक्दैन जस्तो लाग्छ होइन but what do you think on this?
I think a few different things. एउटा चाहिँ त्यो रसो दीर्घ भन्ने फिल्म चाहिँ was not exactly a collaboration between Nepali and Indian production. What happened? So our laws, नेपालको कानुनले चाहिँ co-productionsहरू चाहिँ गर्न दिँदैन होइन. So what had happened was it was a Nepali production that hired a lot of Indian technicians, hired Indian actors, and then that film was made, right? अर्को एउटा फिल्म आउँदैछ बलिदान भन्ने अब आउने दसैँमा 82 सालको दसैँमा रिलिज हुँदैछ होइन. इट हेज समीर भट्ट, रिचा शर्मा एन्ड अ लार्ज सेट अफ एन्ड सो इट्स अ भेरी मच एज फार एज आई नो अबाउट द फिल्म इट्स अ भेरी मच like it used a lot of like action coordinators and stars from India's South Co industry, but then again that's not a, but though I think there has to be that their laws has to be created to facilitate more of a co-production because we have right now film directors and filmmakers who have created access to production houses around the world. तर त्यहाँको resources collaborative way मा चाहिँ नेपाल ल्याउन चाहिँ सकेको छैन.
It's a good idea that दुईटा completely different cinema चाहिँ should collab भनेर. Do you think it?
Yeah. I think दुईटा production hausesहरूले गरे भने त त्यो that means like you have more expertise, more knowledge coming into the table, right? In terms of the future of Nepali film industry, I think the future अहिले चाहिँ बल्ल it is becoming an industry, slowly being defined into an industry, right? It's like taking its shape and contours. I recently read that in the month of Jade, around 50 करोडको जतिको चाहिँ फिल्म चाहिँ लगानी भइरहेको रहेछ होइन. So that is a good size investment into, and there might be a lot of crappy films coming out of it, but there will be some really good ones. But what's more important is that it is going to support this big group of people, who the technical people, right? People who are gaffers, people who do lighting, people. Yeah. Because is film a creative work? Yes, but it also needs to sustain. And then to technical part, जब expand हुँदै राम्रो हुँदै जान्छ नि तब त्यो फिल्मको क्रिएटिभ एस्पेक्ट पनि बढ्दै जाने हो नि त, राइट? फर अ फिल्म डिरेक्टर can only manage to do one film a year, right? But if you are a camera assistant, एउटा मात्र फिल्म गरेर त तिम्रो जीविकोपार्जन त चल्दैन नि त, right? When Rajesh Hamal, Sunil Thapa were the big names in Nepali film industry, it was not possible for the technical crew to make a living through Nepali films. So they did other things, and they're bound to do other things. A good thing now is that अहिले चाहिँ technical crew ले चाहिँ आफ्नो जीविकोपार्जन and a good इन्कममा, गुड मिडल क्लास इन्कममा चाहिँ फिल्ममै काम गरेर कमाइरहेछ होइन. वाट द्याट अलाउज इज द्याट एउटा फिल्मबाट सिकेको कुरा अर्को फिल्ममा गएर बेटर हुन्छ नि त. सो इट्स बेटरिङ द क्राफ्ट, राइट? बिकज फिल्म इज अल्टिमेटली अ कल्मिनेसन अफ all kinds of artistic practices that has existed previously. There is writing, there is painting, right? Painting halko visual elements are ayo, and then there is like sound, or ke huncha, like I'm even forgetting right now, but there's like it is a culmination of everything, right? So the technical crew चाहिँ stronger भइरहेछ. अर्को साइडमा चाहिँ I think our writing is not that strong. Nepali film ko writing, if you see, except for a few notable exceptions, by and large the writing is not good, and it's because we don't have a strong tradition of teaching literature, right? When you are किन कथा त तीबाट आउने हो नि त हैन, लिटरेचरैबाट आउने हो. Our education system as a system have not been able to curate to the need for like त्यो पढाउन, साहित्य चाहिँ पढाउन त्यस्तो फोकस गरेको हुँदैन. So I think it's like I would say like being at Premiere is such a big privilege because we get to go to class and talk about why we talk about Purple Hibiscus, we talk about A Doll's House, and we'll talk about so many other books, and we talk about why these characters are making these choices. So it could be that people in this room would go on to make films, right? And this education is going to be so helpful into your journey.
Okay, so हजुरको ओपिनियनमा चाहिँ कस्तो एजुकेसन सिस्टम सुड बी मोर इम्प्लाइड लाइक नट एक्सेप्सन अब अलि नट जस्तो डेभलप सिटीमा जस्तो बट देन अरू ट्रेडिसनल रिमोट एरियामा चाहिँ हाउ डु थिङ्क द्याट कुड बी एड्रेस जस्तो लाग्छ हजुरको ओपिनियनमा
In terms of education system?
Yeah, because you say that literature-लाई चाहिँ more राम्ररी इम्प्लाई गरिरहेको छ स्टुडेन्ट्समा अनि the Nepal still needs to have that more strong writing जस्तो.
Yeah.
In your opinion, say like not Kathmandu but अरू remote areasमा चाहिँ how do you think that could be implied?
How could that एउटा त I don't really know about the reality and the challenges that schools in rural Nepal face, right? And there's often a risk for people like us who are in the cities, who are in the metropolis, to say त्यहाँनिर चाहिँ यो समस्या चाहिँ यसरी एड्रेस गर्नु पर्यो भन्यो भने त and that's what has been done, right? Like people are sitting here in Kathmandu and are making these policies thinking that these kind of things यस्तो कुराले चाहिँ सल्भ हुन्छ होला भनेर तर द ग्राउन्ड रियालिटी ग्राउन्ड च्यालेन्जेसहरू अरू नै हुनसक्छ के आई बिन रिडिङ अ लट अबाउट लाइक के अरे हिल्ली रिजनमा डिपपुलेसन भइरहेछ है पिपल आर लिभिङ राइट एन्ड सो दोज हु आर लेफ्ट देयर have to fight monkeys because the monkeys come and encroach their like अब केही रोपेको छ मकै खाइदिन्छ आँप खाइदिन्छ होइन that's their source of earning, that's the source of like food अनि so I can imagine a student having to stop his class short so that he has to go help his mother होइन स्याङ्जामा त्यो भइरहेको हुनसक्छ I don't know होइन so I don't really know what challenges or त्यो I can speculative obviously and I love speculative I love imagining and thinking about like यस्तो समस्या होला यसरी गर्नुपर्छ होला भनेर तर obviously when you're making a decision any kind of decision you want to go see the ground reality you want to talk to the teachers right and I think त्यो म त अब काठमाडौँमा जन्मेको काठमाडौँमै हुर्केको त्यसपछि अमेरिका गएको so I know more about what are the challenges in education in Boston than I know about my own country, right? And that's my reality. So I don't know. So that's my answer, yeah.
Okay, so what's one surprising thing हजुरले आफ्नो career you learned? Not career, let's leave career really. In life in general, what's one surprising thing हजुरले you got to know or you learned?
So मेरो like you know we live in a world of like hyper division of labor, right? Panna Hojeko, there are experts for everything, right? And that seems to be the career path for like either you are an expert in a computer expert ma ta bhanदैन नि त अब त के रे AI को पनि machine learning को expert होला हैन अनि त्यसै similarly you have experts in every field and then there is obviously value to that तर मेरो लागि चाहिँ मेरो life experience has been I'm a generalist, right? I have skills to work in so many different places and that has been my greatest asset. So for me, it's not the hyper division of labor, but being able to be kind of like the Renaissance, the European Renaissance, Renaissance man भन्ने एउटा त्यो terminology निस्केको थियो त्यो भने कस्तो भन्दाखेरि this guy is making like just the Leonardo da Vinci making amazing paintings, right? And then he's designing the first एक हिसाबले एरोप्लेनको प्रोटोटाइप पनि बनाइरहेछ he's also writing philosophy को treatiseहरू त्यस्तो खालको हिसाबले चाहिँ so I'm not comparing myself to them obviously to those great giants but I'm saying that I think there is value in being a generalist in being able to do so many things. I think though I am jack of all trade and master of none and I think I'm very happy to be that way and obviously now I want to be the master in writing I want to be the master of in teaching obviously तर मेरो लागि चाहिँ what has helped is that I have been I guess I'm repeating now. That are not being hyper focused on one thing. And I'm sure there are like drawbacks. त्यसको पनि हैन generalist हुँदैमा सबै कुरा आउँछ भन्ने त छैन. तर at a time when technology is evolving so fast and careers are getting outdated, generalist हुनु भनेको चाहिँ you can adjust to different adaptability चाहिँ हुँदो रहेछ के. And I have seen that adaptability in myself.
So now that we have come to the end of our episode, what advice would you give teenagers like our career pick garda, because you've seen it all, you've been there, done that.
That's a very important and a very tough question. सुरुमा त I would encourage all my premier students to learn discipline alikati, किनभने whatever you do, if you're disciplined, you will go far in life, right? And it's not just about the materialistic satisfaction, that त्यो तिमीहरूले लाइफमा satisfaction पाउने भनेको चाहिँ डिसिप्लिनबाट नै हो, right? If you want to go, if you're a musician, you have to play the instrument for hours and hours and hours to learn, to be good at it, right? And there will be time when you don't want to sit with your guitar, you don't want to sit with your violin, you don't want to sit with your sarangi. So अब त्यो career choices हरुलाई यो गर त्यो गर भनेको त that's entirely dependent on what is your pursuit in life. मेरो लागि my pursuit is literature, and it's like many facets, right? So that's how I see it. Like teaching is one facet of literature, journalism is another, writing a novel is another, writing theater is another. So मान्छेलाई pursuit त आफ्नो, what is your calling to? It should come from inside of you. But what is universal is that the motivation will die out, or it's not always sustainable. I should say it that way. It's not always sustainable. So discipline, like showing up no matter what, doing the work, takes you really far. Thank you.
So from our team, we have a little token of love for
thank you so much.
your time. So on the behalf of our team, there is a little piece of art. I hope you like it.
Thank you so much. This is beautiful. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Me as well. Thank you.